Yo, what's up, movie people? I hope you're doing well. We got a new tier list ranking to do. We're going to do a DCEU tier list, just like how I did when Shazam Fury of the Gods came out. We're going to do it now because The Flash just came out. We'll probably do it again because Blue Beetle's coming out soon. But let's get right to the ranking. Alright, so our first movie is going to be Man of Steel. Zack Snyder's first DC movie, and I think this is the first DCEU movie to start in that whole timeline. You know, Man of Steel is a movie that I have a love-hate relationship with because I love the visuals of this movie. I think that this movie just doesn't work for me personally because the writing isn't great, and I do not like the decisions that Zack Snyder chooses to make with this character. I'm on the stance where I agree with people who say that him not saving his dad is stupid, because it's stupid. I mean, people might see him save his dad, but that would maybe be like a once in a lifetime like thing. Like, people maybe just think, oh, I didn't see what was going on. What's that? They wouldn't even have their phones out recording anything. No one would believe him. He should have just saved his dad. That was stupid in my opinion. But I like the final battle a lot. Like when he's destroying the whole city, trying to face off with Zod. I know a lot of people don't like that, but what's he supposed to do? I memean, he's just fighting Zod. They're flying around. They have to crash through buildings, you know. But I actually do like Henry Cavill in the role a decent bit. But I think that they should move on from him, you know. Just because I like him. Henry Cavill is just aging out of the role. We need to start with a younger Superman that can play him for another 10 to 15 years. But I think Man of Steel is a pretty good movie, so I'm going for the good tier. Next up on our tier list is The Suicide Squad, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Alright, so The Suicide Squad is one of my favorite like superhero movies of all time. I'm not ashamed to say that. I just love what James Gunn is able to do with a superhero movie. You know, he makes all these characters likable. He even made Peacemaker likable, and Peacemaker is literally a douchebag kind of villain-esque character. And I really love what he did with Rick Flag in this one. He made him like an actual main character, the group leader that everyone actually liked. In the end, he's like an actual main character, not like in the other Suicide Squad. And him bringing Starro, I think is what the villain's name is, into live action is so cool. A giant kaiju they're fighting after him, and Idris Elba in this movie is so awesome, so badass. King Shark, oh, Mr. Sylvester Stallone as King Shark is one of my favorites. This was just a fantastic experience in the theater for me. It came out like right after COVID, and I just think it's an amazing movie, so I'm putting it in the amazing tier. Next up is Peacemaker, also from James Gunn, a follow-up from The Suicide Squad. You know what happens in this one if you've seen it. It's a very good show, I think. You know, I really never got into this show until a couple episodes in, partially because I forgot it came out, partially because I wasn't really into TV shows at that point. I was just watching movies a lot. But when I got into this show, I think it was a little bit of a rocky start, but it really found its footing by episode 3, and I really enjoyed the rest of the episodes a lot. I think the villain of this show is really weak, though. I didn't really care too much about the villain. I just cared about the side characters. Vigilante, also one of the best characters, I think, in this show. And, you know, I cared about Peacemaker and his development in the show, and I think he has great development. I think the writing is so strong in this. It's very funny. It's like a full-blown comedy show, comedy superhero show. So I give it those props, and I like it a lot. You know, I'm going to put it in the great tier. Not exactly amazing, because I feel like it was a little bit rocky for me, but it's good. Next up is Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is also one of those DC movies that I was a little worried going into. Like, I thought it wasn't going to be great, but I walked out of it, and I really had a great time with this movie. You know, Patty Jenkins is a very interesting director because she can give us a movie like this, then she can give us Wonder Woman 1984, which I'll get to, but I do not like Wonder Woman 1984, I'll just say that right now. But the first Wonder Woman works a lot. Chris Pine is a good. Gal Gadot, she's pretty good in this movie. I think the only issue I have with this is, like Peacemaker, there's a villain issue in this movie. By the end, the final act is just not what I wanted out of this movie. I wanted like a big fight, like a bigger fight than what we got. But, you know, I still had a pretty good time, so I'm going to put it in the great tier. Next up is Zack Snyder's Justice League, not to get confused with Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League is one of those movies where my experience was pretty great, but also pretty bad, because the bad part is I didn't get to watch it in the movie theater. It came out on HBO Max. The great part was I just had a fantastic time watching it, just in my room on the big television screen, and I just had food while watching it. It's a nice 4-hour movie, so you had to get some meals in while watching it, and I felt like that was an awesome time watching it. Even though I didn't get to watch on the big screen, I had everything I wanted to watch it when I watched it, and the story here is so fleshed out. You can flesh out all your characters in a 4-hour Justice League movie. I do love Zack Snyder's cinematographer, who he gets for his movies. That's great. And I think the writing was a lot better on this movie compared to his last 2 DC films. And the third act, oh, what a great DC third act. And the cliffhanger was excellent. Sadly, we don't get anything extra from that cliffhanger. We don't get to see Darkseid ever come back. But man, seeing him in live action was so cool. I would have loved it. And actually seeing Steppenwolf in his actual design was actually menacing. His first design was so stupid, but this actual design is fantastic. I loved all the fight scenes. I loved when Barry goes back in time in like the Speed Force. One of the best scenes in the DCEU. One of the best scenes in that universe. So Zack Snyder's Justice League is going to go in the amazing tier. Next up is Wonder Woman 1984. I don't really have a lot to say about this one, just that I didn't like it. It's really just a movie that messes up the first one, in my opinion, a little bit, because this one takes place. No, this one does take place after the first one, but still, I think the story of this one is so stupid. And they had Pedro Pascal in the weirdest role of all time. And the villain of this one being like, what was it? The cheetah lady? I don't remember the full name because I don't remember it. But I just didn't think she was a great villain at all. The fight scenes were so bad compared to the first one. Like, if you compare the third act of this one compared to the first one, it's such a whiplash in quality. It's outstandingly stupid. But, I feel like it does have some good factors, which are, of course, Chris Pine and Gal Gadot's like their romance and like their them together. They just have a good chemistry on set, I think. And Chris Pine is also awesome to see in anything. I love Chris Pine so much, so I feel like that's one of the good aspects. But Patty Jenkins really did just not great on this movie. I don't know what she was thinking with this movie, but it just wasn't great. I'm gonna put this one in the bad tier. It's not terrible, but it's not good. Next up is BVS. Batman vs. Superman. I'm going to talk about the Ultimate Edition here, because if I talked about the original, it would go lower. So Ultimate Edition it is. Ultimate Edition adds a bit more story, a bit more character moments that I did appreciate in this movie, but I feel like this one just works. I don't think it works that well, but it works a little bit better than some of the other worse DC movies. But where this one doesn't work for me is the writing. I just think that the writing of this movie just isn't strong at all. And if it was stronger, I think this movie would have done bigger box office numbers, would have got like over $1 billion, much more than $1 billion. But the writing is just so stupid. Also, when it goes down in the third act, it's just, the writing is not great in my opinion. I do love the action a lot. I think the action works a lot. The score of this movie is one of the best scores in the DCEU universe, not counting the Dark Knight trilogy. But I think it's a pretty good score. The ending is great, even though we knew Superman was going to come back. But, I love the cliffhanger kind of ending. I love the fight with the one villain at the end. I forgot his name. It was on the tip of my tongue, and now I forgot it. But I did love that fight with Wonder Woman where she showed up. But, I feel like this movie just lacked good plot, good writing. Like, the plot was okay. The BVS story could have been done a lot better. So I'm putting the okay tier. I can watch it and have fun with it, but I'm not going to say it's a good movie. Next up is The Flash. The Flash just came out, so I'm not going to put any spoilers in this video, so don't worry about that. But The Flash is a pretty good movie. I did think it was like great, but then I saw it again, and a little bit of those moments really did not leave me feeling the same way, so I did bring it down a little bit. But I think it's a pretty good movie. Ezra Miller here, they do a great job playing against themselves, with one character being different than the other, so I think that's great. Sasha Calle, she's great. She's fantastic in her role here, but she wasn't utilized as much as I wanted her. Michael Keaton, great. He's Michael Keaton. He does amazing. But you know where this movie really didn't work for me is the third act. The third act is such a CGI fest, and it felt like it was written by a different person when it got to the third act, because the emotional moments weren't there until that one final emotional moment. That was great. But the last 20 minutes just felt like a totally different turn from what we saw in the first two acts. I think the first two acts worked pretty well, and I liked it a lot. I just do not like what they did with the third act, especially with the CGI and the cameo choices. Those weren't great. So I'm going to put The Flash in the good tier. Next up is Black Adam, The Rock's DC film, his first and last DC film, if we want to talk about it like that. The Black Adam movie just isn't good. It's not good. It should have been a JSA movie, Justice Society of America movie. I would have enjoyed that better. That would have been better. The Rock just isn't great in these like superhero movies, I don't think. Black Adam just isn't a character that deserves his own movie. No one cares about Black Adam. I didn't care about Black Adam when I saw it, and I didn't care about him after. Like, it's just not a character that deserves its full plot main character movie. It deserves to be a side character in a Shazam movie. So do not ever make a standalone Black Adam movie. I will literally not like it. The JSA were cool, of course. Black Adam just wasn't great. The plot is so stupid, and there's some annoying side characters here. Like, holy crap. Some of the most annoying side characters from last year, in my opinion. The writing is horrendous, and some of the dialogue felt like it was 80-yard, like a day before the movie came out. Like, that's how I felt. So I'm gonna put it in the bad tier. One thing I'll say, the CGI and VFX were pretty good. That's what I'll give it. But it's not a great movie. Next up is Aquaman. Aquaman is a pretty fun movie, I'll say that. The CGI is excellent, some of the best in the DCEU. Black Manta was awesome, though underused in my opinion. Third act fight was actually really great. It was very visually pleasing in my opinion. I do wish we could have seen a lot more of the movie. I wish it was a little bit longer, but I really did like it. I like Aquaman, and I like Jason Momoa in the role, so it's gonna suck to see him leave that role. And I don't know where Aquaman 2 takes place in this new timeline we got, so don't even ask me. But I'll still watch it, and I'll probably still have fun. But Aquaman, I say, is a good movie. Next up is what do I call it? Suicide Squad? Not the Suicide Squad? Suicide Squad, we'll call it. Suicide Squad is another not good DC movie. Sure, it has its moments with Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. She's excellent here. She does so great. I loved all of her scenes. Those are the moments that I really like. But overall, the movie is just not good. Like, it's just not fleshed out as much as I would want it to be. And the writing here isn't great. A lot of DC movies struggle with the writing. Like, I didn't connect to any of the characters except Harley Quinn. And that was mostly because Margot Robbie was doing outstanding as the performance. But other than that, I just didn't care about any of the characters. Rick Flag, I didn't care about. But in this Suicide Squad, the other one, I cared about him a lot. I was actually so sad when he died. But this one, I didn't care. And I can hardly remember anything about it. Even if I watched it yesterday, I'd probably forget so much about it. So I'm going to put the Suicide Squad in the bad tier. Next up is the first Shazam. This is one of the better DC movies in my opinion. I feel like this movie worked a lot because it was coming at a time where DC was really serious before this movie. And this movie is really lighthearted, really child-friendly, I would say. And a lot of the jokes work a lot in my opinion. And I do like the fight scenes a lot. I like the emotional moments a lot in this movie. I feel like that worked a lot. So I'm going to put this one in the great tier. Next up is Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey, Harley Quinn's first standalone kind of movie. Margot Robbie also produced it. You know, I wanted to like this one a lot more than I actually did. I feel like Margot Robbie is of course great in this movie, but the side characters I didn't really care for. I didn't really care for the whole mission they were on in this movie. Ewan McGregor also plays the villain. The villain isn't written great. Ewan McGregor tries his best to really make something out of it, but it's just another DC movie that I don't think is written that well. I do like the cinematography of this one a lot. The costume design is especially great in my opinion. But overall, the movie just didn't leave me feeling like I wanted to. I really wanted to enjoy it a lot more. But I actually do enjoy it a decent bit, but I still find it just okay. Next one is Justice League. I'm not going to sit here and talk about Justice League. It's a very disrespectful movie to the cast members and Zack Snyder and his family. So I'm just going to put it in terrible because it's a very disrespectful movie. I'm not going to talk about it. Next up is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Our second Shazam movie, probably our last Shazam movie because it flopped so badly. I did see it in theaters, so I'm not responsible for the flop. But I had a decent time with this one. I don't know what everyone's saying. It's not terrible. It's just not great. It's nowhere near the standard of the first one. I feel like the direction of this one is worse than the first, and I feel like the third act really it went too much, in my opinion, for a Shazam movie. It didn't have to be that much, and I feel like this movie was juggling so many ideas at once that just didn't work for me. Nothing was too fleshed out for me to really enjoy it. The emotional moments were actually pretty great at times, but I don't think every one of those things landed. Just like the comedy, I don't think each joke landed as well as, let's say, the first Shazam. Each joke landed really well. But I do like how the family element played in this one, how everyone had powers this time around. Everyone's costume looked amazing. But let me just say, the Skittles product placement is one of the worst product placements I've ever seen in my life. Like, I would rather have the Krispy Kreme product placement from Power Rangers movie than have the Skittles product placement in this, because it actually brought the movie down for me. If your product placement takes me out of a movie, then that's not good product placement. That just makes your movie more dumb, more stupid, in my opinion. And that's what this movie did. The Skittles, little 30-second out of the movie talking about Skittles with the animals, that doesn't need it. Like, it doesn't need it. But I did enjoy the movie, so I'm going to put it in the okay tier. I enjoyed it, but it's not great. We're going to do a final ranking now. I'm done talking about that stupid product placement. So let's do a final ranking. Terrible tier, Justice League. Suck it. You're the only one there. Bad tier. The bad tier, Wonder Woman 1984 will go at the bottom, and I'm going to put Black Adam at the top. Yeah, I do like the JSA a lot, so they're going to stick there. Okay tier, Shazam! Fury of the Gods going to the top, Birds of Prey at the bottom. Sorry, Margot Robbie, but I just didn't like the whole story of this movie as much as I wanted to. Good tier, let's go fast. That actually looks like a pretty good... Actually, I'll put the Flash below Aquaman. Aquaman is more fun, in my opinion. Great tier. I'm going to put Shazam above Wonder Woman. Shazam is a more fun movie. I do like these fun little family emotional movies. Peacemaker is at the top. Amazing tier. That's how I'll leave it. The Suicide Squad is my favorite DCEU movie. We could all have our different opinions. I'm fine with it. Leave your ranking in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.